All right, let's dive deep into the world of Peter Berg.
Oh, yeah, the guy who directed Lone Survivor, right?
That's the one. But we're going beyond the big explosions and, intense action sequences today. We're really trying to figure out what makes this guy tick, what drives his creative process. And our roadmap for this journey is his conversation on the Joe Rogan Experience.
Ooh, that's a gold mine right there.
You know it. Berg doesn't hold back. He dives deep into his methods, his struggles, even what he's learned over his career. You don't get that kind of honesty every day.
Especially from a director of his caliber. He's worked with some big names,
Totally. And one thing that really stood out to me right from the start was his obsession with historical accuracy.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Yeah.
Especially with his new Netflix series, American Primeval.
Exactly. He takes us back to the Wild West, like the 1850s Wild West. And he wants to strip away all that Hollywood gloss, He wants to show the grit, the real danger, the constant struggle for survival that defined life back then. No romanticized version here.
It's like he's saying, hey, this is what it really took to survive. Like every decision, every step could be your last.
He calls his filmmaking approach inch by inch, and it really makes you realize how vulnerable those early settlers were.
Vulnerable. I like that word. Like facing down a wild animal, hostile tribes, even just the elements, right?
Totally. And, it translates to the viewer's experience, too.
Oh, for sure. You're not just watching violence on screen. You're feeling it, the danger, the tension. It's palpable.
It keeps you on the edge of your seat. But Berg's a genius storyteller. He gets that even amidst the brutality, you need that emotional connection to truly captivate an audience.
Makes you care about what's happening, right?
Exactly. And he shared this story about his Netflix boss, Bella Bajaria. She surprised him with her reaction to a particularly violent scene. She told him, "I'm here for this violence as long as you make it emotional."
Wow. Powerful stuff.
Yeah, that stuck with me because it's a bigger conversation, right?
Yeah.
How we engage with difficult subjects.
Like violence.
Yeah.
It can't just be there for shock value. It needs a purpose.
And it has to resonate on an emotional level. Berg gets that. He doesn't shy away from the darkness, but he makes sure it serves a purpose. Speaking of pushing boundaries, his portrayal of Brigham Young and the Mountain Meadows Massacre in American Primeval caused a stir.
Definitely stirred the pot.
He doesn't shy away from the complex, sometimes troubling aspects of Young's leadership.
He calls Young a gangster and a survivor. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
He has this respect for the man, but he doesn't sugarcoat the historical facts.
It's like he's saying history is rarely black and white. And as viewers, we have to grapple with that, form our own conclusions.
And he brings it to the present day, too. He compares Young's leadership to modern Mormon communities in Mexico.
Yeah.
The ones who are armed and facing off with cartels.
Really, it makes you think about faith, survival, the lengths people go to protect their beliefs.
Powerful stuff. And it shows how history often repeats itself in ways we don't expect. Our threats might be different today, but those core human struggles, survival, belonging, purpose, they're still there.
Exactly. And that's what makes Berg's work so captivating. He taps into those universal themes.
Reminding us that we're all connected. But Berg doesn't just explore these themes in historical stories. He reflects on his own journey in the entertainment industry, too.
Oh, for sure. He's had his fair share of ups and downs, let me tell you.
He was incredibly open about getting slammed by that critic Kenneth Turan for his first film, Very Bad Things.
I remember reading about that. Brutal review, right. And remember, this was before social media and instant feedback. A critic like Turan could make or break a movie.
Especially for a young director. Devastating.
Berg even admitted he almost got into a fight with Turan over it.
Wow. You can just feel the sting of that experience.
The vulnerability of putting everything into something and having it ripped apart publicly. But he evolved from that. He learned how to navigate the world of criticism.
Yeah. He realized that critics have their place, but their opinions don't define you as an artist.
He focuses more on connecting with his audience, especially now with platforms like Reddit, where viewers have a much louder voice.
True. He had some great advice, too, for anyone in a creative field. He said, don't get bogged down by negative criticism, especially if you're giving it your all.
And he reminded us about the man in the arena, that quote from Theodore Roosevelt.
Ah, yes. It is not the critic who counts.
Not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood. It's about having the courage to put yourself out there. Don't let others derail your passion.
Powerful. You can't please everyone, and trying to do so just kills your creativity.
Find your voice, your audience. Trust your gut. And speaking of trusting your gut, Berg's insights on discipline and focus were fascinating, especially when it comes to writing.
Right. He compares it to elite athletes like Canelo Alvarez, training regimens.
Pushing yourself to the limit, mentally and physically. He talked about protecting your attention bandwidth. We only have so much mental energy, and we need to be mindful of how we use it.
I love that concept.
He's incredibly intentional about creating space for deep work. He wakes up early, sets a goal for what he wants to write, and then disconnects from everything. No distractions.
He even described his mind as a calm pond in the morning.
Yeah.
And every notification, email, anything external, it's like a rock disrupting that stillness.
Such a great analogy. And that's something we can all relate to, whether you're a writer, artist, entrepreneur, whatever. The ability to focus is becoming more valuable every day.
Especially in this world that's constantly vying for our attention. We need to learn to create that inner stillness.
It's not just about avoiding distractions, it's about being present in the moment, fully engaged in what you're doing. Berg's approach to writing, it's a masterclass in mindfulness.
Couldn't agree more. It highlights how success isn't just about talent. It's about discipline. It's about consistency. And it's about putting in the hard work, even when you don't feel like it.
Talking about hard work, Berg also told some crazy stories from his time owning a boxing gym. He even sparred with Canelo Alvarez himself.
Wait, really?
Yeah, and it quickly went from this lighthearted story to, like, a stark reminder of Alvarez's power, even as a young fighter.
You can't mess with Canelo.
Berg clearly has a deep respect for boxing, but he also called it a stupid business to be in.
Well, it is notoriously hard. Managing fighters, making the right matches. It's a tough world.
He contrasted it with UFC, which has a more centralized system.
Makes it easier to organize fights and build those narratives around the athletes.
But even with the challenges, Berg's drawn to that raw, unfiltered nature of boxing.
He's fascinated by the fighters themselves, their dedication, that in-it mentality they have.
And he and Rogan talked about how rare that level of drive is. Most people just aren't wired to push themselves to that extreme.
They even got into the role of trauma and almost like a touch of craziness in achieving greatness.
Think about athletes like Mike Tyson, Michael Jordan. Their accomplishments seem fueled by this crazy drive that's almost, well, unconventional. And that brings us to one of the most interesting parts of the interview. Berg's take on the delusional thinking needed to succeed in Hollywood.
Ooh, tell me more.
You're constantly selling your vision, convincing studios to invest millions in what might seem like a crazy idea to anyone else.
He's really upfront about how many people fail in creative fields. You have to be all in, he said, because half-hearted efforts never lead to anything extraordinary.
So that's where the delusional thinking comes in. You have to believe in your vision so strongly, even when everyone thinks you're nuts.
Like you're selling a dream, and you have to be the most passionate believer in that dream, no matter what.
He even joked about his father's reaction when he said he wanted to be a filmmaker. His dad warned him he'd end up making, and I quote, gay pornos.
Huh. Classic dad joke. But it also highlights the skepticism creatives face.
Yeah.
People just don't get it.
It's a reminder that success isn't a straight line. It's a journey with twists and turns, highs and lows. But it's that unwavering belief in your vision that really makes the difference.
It makes Peter Berg so compelling, right?
Yeah.
He's a testament to passion, hard work, and embracing the unknown.
And it makes you wonder, what are we willing to go all in on? What dreams are we holding back on, maybe out of fear or self-doubt? Berg's story is an invitation to embrace that delusional thinking and see where it leads us.
Love that. Find that thing that ignites your soul, that makes you willing to put in the effort, face those challenges. And for Berg, that's filmmaking, clearly.
Oh, without a doubt. And that passion is contagious. You see it in his interviews, his films, even how he talks about his craft. It makes you want to find that same level of passion in your own life.
To find that thing that makes you jump out of bed every morning.
Exactly. And it brings us to another key theme, discipline. Berg's entire approach, his filmmaking, writing, even his workouts, it all points to this deep commitment to discipline and focus.
He's all about protecting that attention bandwidth. Remember, recognizing we have limited mental energy and we need to be deliberate with how we use it.
Right, and that calm pond analogy, it makes you think about how much control we have over our own minds, over our ability to focus and create.
We can't let ourselves get swept away by all the distractions.
We need to be proactive about creating space for that deep work, for creative flow, for those moments of inspiration.
It's like training your mind like an athlete trains their body. Push yourself, build resilience, develop that mental toughness.
Berg's journey is proof of that. Challenges, setbacks, he's faced them all. But he never gave up on his vision. He keeps pushing forward, refining his craft, finding new ways to tell stories that resonate.
That's inspiring. Success isn't a destination, it's a journey.
And it's the journey, the struggles, the triumphs, all of it that shapes who we are and what we're capable of. But as we continue this deep dive, I think it's important to remember that Berg's story isn't just about filmmaking. It's about life. It's about finding your passion, testing your limits, embracing challenges, and never letting go of your dreams.
And never forgetting the power of storytelling to connect us, inspire us, and help us make sense of the world.
Perfectly said. So we were talking about how Peter Berg is drawn to these filmmakers who push the envelope, like Gaspar Noé.
Right.
And it got me thinking, how is that going to shape his upcoming World War II film, Mosquito Ball?
This project, man, it sounds like a whole different ballgame compared to his other stuff.
Oh, yeah, totally different. But it also feels like a natural progression for him, especially with that whole immersive, visceral storytelling style he loves.
Yeah, for sure. It's ambitious, though, right?
Yeah.
Capturing the reality of combat in the Pacific Theater during World War II. That's intense.
Intense is putting it mildly, and he's said he's not shying away from anything, the horrific conditions, the brutality, all of it.
He even said he wants to evoke physical responses from the audience, not just emotional ones.
Think about that for a second. How far can you push a cinematic experience before it becomes too much? Or even exploitative?
That's a good question. I think Berg knows where that line is, though.
Yeah.
He's not about gratuitous violence or just trying to shock people.
No, he wants the audience to feel what those soldiers felt. The fear, the adrenaline, the chaos, the sheer exhaustion.
To really understand it, right?
Yeah.
Not just watch it from a distance.
He wants to create an experience that pulls you in and doesn't let go. And it makes you realize how powerful film can be, right? To transport us to different times and places.
Make us feel things we'd never experience otherwise.
Exactly. But it also highlights the responsibility filmmakers have. To be truthful, to honor the stories they're telling.
And not to exploit sensitive subjects just for the sake of it.
Right, and Berg seems to understand that. He's talked about his research, his commitment to historical accuracy, his desire to honor those who fought in these wars.
He's not interested in some sanitized version of war. He wants to show it as it was.
Yeah.
Complex and brutal.
I'm really curious to see how he balances that realism with the personal stories of the soldiers, because he's great at creating characters we connect with.
Yeah, bringing those individual stories to life within this huge historical event.
And it all comes back to storytelling, doesn't it? Whether it's war, historical drama, action, whatever. Berg is a storyteller at heart.
He knows how to use narrative to connect with people, make us think, make us feel, even challenge how we see things.
And it's not just the story itself, it's how he tells it, the details, the way he pushes boundaries.
All of it contributes to that immersive experience he creates.
Makes you think about the stories we tell ourselves, and how those stories shape our understanding of the world.
That's deep, man. Berg's work really makes you examine those narratives, question your assumptions.
Be open to new perspectives. And speaking of questioning assumptions, Berg had some interesting thoughts on Hollywood itself.
Oh, yeah.
The whole delusional thinking thing he talked about. That you need it to succeed in that world.
Well, it's true. You're constantly pitching ideas, trying to get people to invest millions of dollars in something that might sound crazy.
You almost have to convince yourself that your idea is not just good, but groundbreaking, revolutionary, even if you have doubts.
And that takes guts, man. Putting yourself out there like that, opening yourself up to rejection.
But Berg says it's a risk you have to take if you want to achieve something truly extraordinary.
No risk, no reward. Man.
He also talked about chasing money versus chasing passion. He admitted to taking on projects just for the paycheck, and he said those were the worst experiences, worse than any bad review.
It's that age-old question, right? Do you follow the money or follow your heart?
And for Berg, filmmaking is clearly more than just a job. It's a passion.
It's his calling.
Yeah.
And that passion shines through in everything he does.
It's inspiring to see someone so dedicated to their craft. Makes you want to find that same level of passion in your own life,
To find that thing that lights you up and makes all the hard work worth it.
Totally. And that brings us to another key theme that keeps popping up. Discipline.
Ah, yes. Discipline. Berg lives and breathes it, man.
From his filmmaking, to his writing, to his training, it's all about that commitment to discipline and focus.
Remember that attention bandwidth thing? We only have so much mental energy, we got to use it wisely.
And that calm pond analogy. So good. It's like we need to train our minds like athletes train their bodies.
Push our limits, build that resilience, develop the mental strength to stay focused on our goals.
And Berg's journey is a perfect example of that. He's had his share of setbacks, but he keeps pushing forward, refining his skills, finding new ways to tell stories that connect with people.
It's a good reminder that success is a marathon, not a sprint. It's about the journey, not just the destination.
And the journey is what shapes us, right? It's the struggles, the wins, the lessons learned along the way. But as we dig deeper into Berg's world, I think we need to remember that this isn't just about filmmaking.
There's a bigger message here.
It's about life, finding your passion, testing your limits, embracing the challenges, and never giving up on your dreams.
And never forgetting the power of stories to connect us, to inspire us, to help us make sense of it all.
Well said. We've been talking about Peter Berg's incredible work ethic, his dedication to his craft, but I think there's another side to him that's just as interesting.
Oh, totally.
His willingness to be open about his struggles. You don't see that very often.
Especially not from someone at his level. He doesn't hide the self-doubt, the fear of failure.
Which are things that so many creative people deal with, right?
Absolutely. It's refreshing to hear someone so successful admit to those very human feelings.
He even talked about this thing that happens right before a project comes out.
What, like pre-release jitters?
Kind of, but it's more like people distancing themselves from him.
Really? Why would they do that?
It's like they're afraid to be associated with him just in case the project bombs.
Oh, I get it. So they don't get caught in the blast radius if it flops.
Exactly. It's like everyone disappears and you're left standing there alone, facing the critics and the public.
That's got to be tough. Makes you realize how important it is to have a solid support system.
Your tribe. The people who will be there no matter what, who believe in you even when you don't believe in yourself.
But what's interesting is that Berg said once a project is successful, everyone comes back.
Like magic. It's like a test of those connections. The people who are genuinely there for you during the tough times, they shine even brighter when you're in the spotlight.
It shows you who your real friends are.
Well, it's about building relationships based on real stuff,
Yeah.
Trust, respect, not just on who's hot and who's not.
And that's a lesson that goes way beyond Hollywood. It's about life, building authentic connections that can weather any storm.
Absolutely. Well, as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of Peter Berg, what's one final thought we can leave with our listeners?
Don't be afraid to dream big, even if those dreams sound crazy to everyone else. Embrace the journey, put in the effort, and find your people, those who will lift you up and support you every step of the way.
I love that. And never let the fear of failure hold you back.
Exactly. We all have the potential to achieve amazing things, but it starts with that leap of faith, embracing the unknown, and surrounding yourself with people who believe in you.
And if you haven't already, check out Berg's work, especially American Primeval. It's a masterclass in historical storytelling.
It reminds us of the human stories behind the myths we tell ourselves about history.
Thanks for joining us on this journey into the mind of Peter Berg. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep pushing those boundaries.